Dinner and a Book is supported by the Rex and Alice A. Martin Foundation of Elkhart, celebrating the spirit of Alice Martin and her love of good food and good friends.
This book, The Stardust Road, shines a huge spotlight on Hoagy Carmichael, Hoosier composer and performer, movie star, and golfer. I loved this book, just to find out more about this very famous composer and singer. Joining me today is another Hoosier who loves his state. I don't know if he plays the piano, but let's welcome Bill Firstenberger, who probably visited the Book Nook bar as Hoagy Carmichael did. Welcome.
Thank you, Gail. Thanks for having me here.
It's good to have you,
Yeah.
Because you're a Hoosier. You went to, well, you went to IUSB, but you've been down
Oh, sure.
many times.
I visited IU campus many times.
Yeah,
and so, but the Book Nook sadly was gone before I ever arrived on campus.
What
I
a
believe that
shame.
it closed in the early 1970s. And so, but yeah, it was quite a place.
Oh, you know what? I loved the book because of the good feelings of the people in the book, even though they were hard times in Indiana. It was after the Depression, and Hoagy and his friends took advantage of the opportunity to play, learn music, and enjoy each other.
Well, it was such a critical time in the development of jazz music and the jazz age. And I love that the book pointed out that Bloomington, Indiana, at that point in time in the 1920s when he was there, was the demographic center of the United States. And so this movement that was going across the entire country was centered in terms of population base in Bloomington, Indiana. And so that's why a lot of jazz things happen in Indiana, because of all the transversing of the
They could go up to Chicago
the
to
artists
play, come down.
Louisiana,
Yes,
New Orleans,
Florida.
St. Louis. So
It was a hotbed.
it was a hotbed, absolutely.
And great music. Some of these people were fabulous here in Indiana. But you know, now IU is known for its music program.
Of course, yeah.
And mainly classical music.
Yeah, we tap into that all the time at Ruthmere, and so very, very happy that that's so close by and such a rich resource for us.
Yes, it really is. And I can't begin to say, I don't know why it doesn't get more attention in the newspapers. It's probably the most famous music school in the United States. I'm saying that knowing Juilliard, people will say, oh, wait a minute. But
Us Hoosiers, we're not going to be put down by
nice
Juilliard.
people.
No, not at all. Not at all. So,
well, you know, let's talk about our menu before we get started.
absolutely, I'm going to get started cutting up some vegetables. I've got a long way to go here. And so,
What do you have there you're
so
cutting?
we're going to be making what's called sheet pan Hoosier stew.
I like that.
And it's not very stew-ish, but it's very easy to cook. And so the first thing is I've got some fresh green beans, carrots. Potatoes are already starting to roast, and I added a little zucchini here that I'm going to put in it. And we're going to just put these veggies all in this mixing bowl and kind of coat them with olive oil.
And you know, that's a great way. A lot of people now are preparing their vegetables this way. They aren't putting them in water, they're roasting them in the oven. And I like to do it that way. I think it's fun. The timing issue, of course.
You got to watch them.
You do. You can't run.
Gotta watch
you can't
'em.
walk out of the kitchen. And so you're going to do your zucchini, green beans, potatoes, carrots, and
That's it.
That's a
and
good
then I'll add
bunch.
some ham too. We'll keep the ham kind of separated on the sheet pan, and when us Hoosiers, we would mix it all together. But maybe you might have a vegetarian in your dinner party and you want to let them choose if they want that.
That's a good way to handle it too. Just let them decide. You don't have to worry about
That's
it
right.
then. I just want to say that, I'm going to be making a dish of crudités, relishes, and then a strawberry angel food cake because those were very popular at the time. And relishes are still on buffet, but they're not so much served at table time anymore. But they made up like 1/3 of the meal when I was growing up. You stuffed yourself on carrots and celery. So we're adding that. And how do you think those potatoes look?
I think they're going to be just perfect.
Oh, I think so too.
They needed a little head start, so the potatoes get about an extra 10 to 15 minutes at 425, and then everything cooks at 425.
Good.
So.
And you know, occasionally in this program, you will hear his most famous piece, and it was called the Stardust Road, and then shortened Road. I mean,
Right.
It was shortened then later on to Stardust, and everybody sang it. Perry Como and Bing Crosby, and it was so.
We had a rendition of it performed this spring by a pianist at Ruthmere in our spring concert series.
And I
It
suppose
was
you announced
fabulous.
that you're going to be on television talking about
I
it?
had no idea at that point. This is phenomenal.
Oh, that's interesting. It
Yeah.
truly is. Yes. Well, you know, who was his first teacher? Do you remember?
Well, I think he credited his mother.
Yes,
right?
she really was his first teacher. She was quite a player. She played at all the silent movies in town to earn some money.
Right.
They were not well heeled by any means.
No.
The father had to find so many different jobs. He didn't last very long at jobs, and Hoagy actually worked at a oh gosh, what do you call it, where you trim up the beef and...
Oh yeah, he worked at like a rendering plant almost.
Yeah.
It was sounded just awful. Not something we want to talk about while we're preparing food.
No, but you know what other
was
very
terrible.
famous person did the same thing? He was very poor in New York. Benny Goodman.
Oh really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
absolutely. So these stories are so interesting, and I really enjoyed that it was set in Indiana and Bloomington. But you know, he was being very careful too. He was playing music with these fellows for dances, fraternity dances, sorority dances. But then he thought he should probably study something else that might be
Oh, yeah.
more
Practical.
and dependable, but
Yeah.
turned out it wasn't. But he studied law, and he studied in 1 year after he graduated, and his career never fully blossomed. He really wanted to be with music.
Right. He talks about that the whole time. He's coming back to this story of I must get back to the books. I got it. It's an inner voice
Yeah.
that is telling this. Get back to law, Hoagy. Get back to law. That's where
Yes.
your money's going to be made, and it never really was made.
No,
that way.
he had difficulties with that because his true love was really music. He kept thinking about it. He had friends in the fraternity that were musicians.
Yeah, it's just a fabulous book. It's so. What I find interesting about it too is that it doesn't read through chronologically from beginning to end. It
Right.
is an
It
autobiography.
hops around a little bit.
A lot, a lot. And by page 25, he tells you, he gives this explanatory paragraph and says, you might be confused by this point at how much this book jumps around. And the thing that he said he was using to organize it was how his memories were organized at that point in time in his life.
Yes.
And he considered himself in the mid-40s, this book was written in 1946, as a composer. That's what his main job was. And so he looked back at his memories of the 19-teens and 20s when he was really cutting his teeth and becoming a jazz performer and songwriter through that lens. And
Yeah.
it jumps from relationships that he had to with women and also with fellow musicians. It's just a fascinating way to look at how one person thinks and sees the world.
Well, he just had a lot on his mind. He felt so sorry. His young sister died because they couldn't afford a good doctor. And he said, I will never let that happen again.
Right.
I will work and I will help my family, and this will never happen again. And I think many families were living that way and had those things
That was,
happen.
I think, in part, at least my opinion, was why he kept coming back to the law for
Yes.
the practical side, because he had this sort of inner voice of his lost sister saying, you know, you got to do something that makes sure that food can be on the table. And
Well, that even led to the fact that he liked some girls, but he wasn't going to get involved with them because he knew he had to. He doesn't say it out, but you can read between the lines. He worked to have money to help the family so nobody would die from a disease, and it was some kind of Asian flu. And he was tempted a few times to get married, and he said, no, I've got to put my life first. And I think that's very clever and was very knowing at that time. Well, I have to say it, my parents got married, never lived together for 7 years afterwards.
Really?
Yeah, it was during the Depression. And
I have a story about how long it took for me to get born. My parents dated for 12 years before they decided to get
well,
married.
yeah. Do I
always-
really want to do this?
I always felt like I should have been at least 12 years or 11 years older than I was, you know, but now I'm glad.
Yeah,
So,
well, you know,
come back.
it was the same thing. When we heard about this, you went home, my mother went home to her family, and my dad went home to his family. They said, well, we just had to plan ahead. And they both worked, and she would have lost her job. It was in the Depression because women weren't allowed to work. So I think I have just a minute to go here. We're still going to continue working on all of our food and go on to the next segment. What are you doing in the next
So I'm
segment?
dicing up the
Oh,
ham.
yeah.
I will also give it a little coating of olive oil, and then everything goes into the oven for 425 for about another 20 minutes.
Hold that thought because we're going to take a short break. In the meantime, we have scads of pictures to show you of Hoagy Carmichael, and then we'll be right back. Well, we're going to finish up our prep here, put this in the oven, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about this famous man, this Hoosier, this brilliant Hoosier. I just thought he was so funny, and he would compare his voice to scratching twigs in the wind or something like that, and I really liked it. So how did he get along with his his fraternity brothers and his friends that he liked in the band?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that he talks at length about. By the way, while I'm just a little light seasoning, I'm doing kind of the things that I like, okay? Maybe it's not what you like.
Sure.
But a little bit of lemon pepper, and I'm a big Old Bay fan.
Yeah.
And I'm being very careful not to get this on the ham. It's already salty enough.
Yeah, I think you're smart, right? We don't need too much salt.
A little extra pepper, though, and that can get on the ham.
And this is going into the oven for how many minutes?
Probably about another 20 minutes.
Another 20 minutes. Okay.
All right.
Anyway, you're going to take this and put it in the oven.
Putting it in the oven.
All right.
And back to your
question
on the college friends.
Yeah.
And let me get the foil.
You know, many of us have this same experience where we meet people, and we're friends for life. Bill, you probably have the same experience, but this is an amazing episode.
Well, you build really strong relationships in college years, right? And you're crushed in together with these people that you didn't know before, and sometimes you have some conflicts, but a lot of times you build lifelong relationships out of it.
It's one of the first times where you have to learn how to work around any conflicts and how to settle them, and it's a good place to start and test yourself. And I think and his family was very loving. So that all worked together, and I think that's why I like him as well as I do, as much as I do. So what are you doing here?
Well, what takes me back to my college days.
Oh, we couldn't drink it, DePaul.
We're going to celebrate Hoagy here with a brew from Bloomington Brewing Company.
Ooh, good.
This is called Rising Bloom. and it's an amber ale.
It's beautiful
And I
color.
love these beers because, well, the company took the time to put some really creative labels on them that are historic.
very pretty.
And yeah,
Very
just
nice.
beautiful.
So you have what there?
Oh, there's a whole range here of different beers from Bloomington Brewing Company, but things like this is the Quarryman, this is Empire, with the building, the New York
Yes, that
Empire
one.
State.
That one.
The Empire State Building, because the Empire State Building was made with Indiana limestone.
Yes.
There you go. So
let's
let's
have a toast.
toast to our Hoosier
Bill,
star, superstar.
Thank you for your bringing this beer and other things, and the food too.
And other
Yes.
things. So yes.
Mm.
Nice.
Oh, this is nice. It has a little sweetness to it.
Just a little bit.
Is
Just a little bit.
that how all amber beers taste? A little sweet.
I don't know.
You don't know.
It's this one does.
That's good enough. That's good enough.
So yeah.
So as time marches on, Hoagy is moving. He's playing down in Florida. He's playing up in Chicago, and they go to New York.
Oh yes.
They become famous because he's playing with good players. I mean, that's a lesson. If you're going to try to play in a jazz band, find good players.
Well, they found him.
Yeah.
He was a nobody at first, and he would just show up and start playing the piano when at these places where famous bands were going to be playing.
Yeah.
And, oh, you want to join in, boy?
Yeah,
Yeah, that
so
type
be
of
good.
thing. And so, yeah.
Yeah, don't say I can play 3 keys here for you. And he took advantage. He just loved it so much.
And he never read music.
Yes,
he
that's
never,
right.
He never read music. He did it all by ear, and so it was one of those. He was just a natural genius.
He was, and we were glad he's from Indiana. Yeah. I remember seeing him in a movie with Lauren Bacall and Hoagy, not Hoagy, that's Hoagy's in it, Bogart.
Oh, Humphrey
Bogart, and he's playing the piano. He's got his hat on, and she's singing next to him, and Bogart's sitting in a chair watching, and that's where he kind of broke out too. That's the kind of thing he started doing when the music style changed. It was no longer this kind of music for a while. There was a lot of blues and other styles.
Well, big band style was sort of consuming. You think of the Warriors and Benny Goodman and things like that, Glenn Miller Band, and so but Hoagy stayed relevant all through the 50s and into the 60s for sure, and was a regular feature in the Hollywood.
Well, I don't know if he said one day, this movie's changing. I'll go to the movies. I think he said, there was a particular piece that somebody heard him sing, and that's how he got started in the movies. And so he was a fun person too, I think. He took care of his mother, took care of his father. He was very good to them. And then he got married, went to California.
It took him a long time to get married.
Yes,
right?
He
didn't
get
married for a very, very long time, and a lot of people thought he was going to be a lifelong bachelor, and but he's just saying, no, I was just, waiting for the right song to kind of show him who to find, and so it's a fabulous story, and he kind of weaves this his own sort of down-home poetic style into things like, what was it, the phrase, the year has pants.
Yes.
He uses this phrase like at least 10 a dozen
to show
times
the movement of time.
The movement of time, the year had pants. But I think that also was a reference to letting the reader know that he was going to be shifting gears with, he's going to be jumping around. He might be talking about his times with Bix Beiderbecke, the tragic story of a young, another genius trumpeter, who became an alcoholic and lost his life young, and so, there were a lot of names in there, a lot of very good names of musicians, and actors and lyricists, and he
his wife, his first wife, encouraged him to go out in public and meet people, make connections. He had never really done that. And they didn't stay married. The second wife, wait, which one did he have the children with? The first one?
He doesn't talk a lot about this because it comes along so late in the book, but he does credit his wife as being the person that pushed him out into social circles, because otherwise he would just be happy with hanging with musicians all day long and his piano.
Well, and that's right. And this book is so interesting. It's so much fun. As I said, I read it 3 times, and so, and every time I would discover something new.
Yeah.
He must have taken a lot of good notes. That's
well, you inspired me to, get another first edition. So when you said, let's do this book, Bill, I went scouring the internet, and I was able to find one for a reasonable amount, and
you've added
happy
it to your collection.
It's added to the collection. The people who have seen a past episode that you've been nice enough to have me on know that my deal is that I like to read old books.
Yes.
And in the context of reading an old book, I don't own the tablet software where you can read it on a tablet and then just download it.
Oh, I don't think that's fun.
No, it's not. Not for me.
I like to hold the book. Hey, we got a lot of red here today.
Yeah.
And so how many more minutes do you have in here?
Oh, another probably 10 minutes or so.
Probably another 10.
Yeah,
okay. Well, I love the pictures in this book too, because they show him. He said he was kind of like an old twig. He was so thin, an old twig, and leafy and noisy, and his singing style was not the bravest, not the most, musical, but people loved it. It was a little bit like that white-haired, bearded guy that sang later on. I can't remember his name.
Burl Ives?
Well, that one, and then there's been more. But he did that move to California at the right time for his life and his career. He had 2 boys, and they just adored him. And he spent time with them, but he was always busy. So anyway,
he did. The grass did not grow underneath his feet, as they say. He was always finding new creative ways for his outlets of energy, and I think just somebody that we as Indiana Hoosiers can be proud of.
I think we should be. Yes, absolutely. Well, we have just a few minutes. Let's take a look at our menu, and then we'll be right back. Well, we made it. We're at the final segment here with our Hoosier meal.
That's right. The Hoosier stew.
Yes.
With a little bit of, I did a sweet smoky glaze on the ham as a final topper for that. So, but the vegetables, nice. Roasted vegetables.
It's really modern looking too. It's not just 1940s.
Yeah.
It's got that roasted vegetable feel. And of course we have the good old-fashioned relishes, plain. There aren't any dips from the 40s and 50s. And then a strawberry cake.
The healthiest thing on the menu.
It is, yes. And normally I would slice the strawberries and put them inside and make a strawberry sauce so that it would drip down the edges. But we had so much fun talking about this book. And then this wonderful book, Stardust Road. And I really, the libraries have it. It's in demand. I do recommend you spend an afternoon reading it. It's only about 150 pages.
Yeah.
So tell us what you're holding on in your hand here.
So I said that I was lucky enough to get a first edition copy, and so you can get any copy that you want from the library or anywhere that you like, and they've been doing reprints now for over 50 years. But I like reading historical copies of books. It makes me feel like I'm transported back in time
That's
to
good.
when it was
Yeah.
written. So, yeah.
I'm glad you did that. That's a good thing. It's too late. I read too many books and I couldn't find the first ones. So we had a good time learning more about Hoagy Carmichael, or maybe even learning something more about him. And I just think he's a treasure. I think we should, in Indiana, you know, celebrate him. And I'd like to see some celebrations down there for not just Ernie Pyle or one of the, somebody else.
Cole Porter, Gene
Yeah.
Stratton Porter,
Yes.
unrelated.
This was so nice to
yeah.
have him included in this, and I recommend that you get the book. It's a fast read. It's charming. It doesn't really stand well with interruptions, though, because so much is going on.
It's a great window into his mind and how he thought.
Yeah.
And so for that standpoint alone, you think about all the great songs that he wrote, it's really interesting. So,
Yeah. Okay. I just want to thank you for coming, bringing your Stardust Road special book.
yeah, sure.
And your tie, which is so charming.
Well, you know,
Fits right in.
I have
You
to do
always-
something of the jazz
You
age when I come
always
on Dinner
fit
and a
in,
Book.
Bill.
Right?
Yes, yes, yes. And thank you for joining us. And come back another time. We invite you to join us. We have more books to talk about. Remember, good food, good friends, good books make for a super good life. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
This WNIT local production has been made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Dinner and a Book is supported by the Rex and Alice A. Martin Foundation of Elkhart, celebrating the spirit of Alice Martin and her love of good food and good friends.